Now, there are a lot of really healthy foods that you could be including in your meals every single day, but there are 12 absolute superstars that can literally solve like 95% of your health and wellness issues. These foods can help with things like acid reflux, bloating, and fat loss. So today I want to share those 12 food and supplements that you need to be aware of. Let's dive into it. My name's Autumn. I'm a certified clinical nutritionist with my master's nutrition human performance, and today's video is sponsored by Element. More on them in a bit. Okay, the first food is lemon juice, especially if you have acid reflux. Now, this is something that I used a lot, especially during my first pregnancy, and people have the common misconception that acid reflux is always caused by a lot of acid in the stomach. In fact, it's actually usually caused by the opposite. We need to have a certain amount of acid in the stomach to help promote digestion, but also to help close the muscle between the stomach and the throat. When we have too little acid, it can make it so that muscle doesn't close all the way, and it causes the acid that is in the stomach to splash back up and cause something like acid reflux. This is where lemon juice and honestly apple cider vinegar can really come into play. During my first pregnancy, when I had a lot of acid reflux, I would use between half to one full lemon in my water that I would have pretty much before every single meal, and it would significantly reduce my acid reflux. Now, how well this works will depend on the cause of your acid reflux, but I think you would be surprised by how much of acid reflux is really caused by low stomach acid. Okay, the second food is oysters, especially if you're really struggling with B12. Now, it's estimated between 6 to 20% of Americans are deficient or low in B12, and especially those who are 60 or older tend to be at the highest levels, about 20%. And this can be really scary because low levels of B12 can cause permanent nerve damage. And this actually does happen, and the consequences can be pretty severe. I had a client who had undiagnosed low levels of vitamin B12 for years, and he didn't know that he had it until one day he was riding his bike and he lost his balance from the nerve damage from the low vitamin B12 and ended up having a pretty serious bike injury. And unfortunately, the damage caused by low levels of B12 is irreversible, but oysters are incredibly high in vitamin B12. In fact, just 1 ounce of oysters gives you almost 100% of your daily vitamin B12 needs. Plus, oysters don't have a central nervous system, and so they reportedly don't feel pain. For this reason, some who are vegetarian or plant-based are comfortable with including oysters into their diet, almost in the form of like a supplement. Okay, the third food is for if you really struggle with dental health like I did growing up, and that's full-fat Greek yogurt. This food essentially like cured my teeth. If you haven't seen my whole video on my lifelong struggle with cavities, then I highly recommend checking out right here. But once I started having full-fat Greek yogurt, it essentially stopped me from getting cavities. And that's because full-fat Greek yogurt has like the perfect trifecta of ingredients. It has protein, it has vitamin K2, and it has calcium, all things that our body need a lot of in order to actually remineralize our teeth. And specifically, vitamin K2 is one that a lot of people are missing because it's hard to get from other foods outside of fermented dairy products, and it's been found to often be a missing link that could cause a lot of dental issues. Okay, the fourth is for if you really struggle with bloating, and that's ginger. Ginger is one of the only foods that actually turns on our gut cleaning process. Anytime we eat, it usually turns off our gut cleaning process, but ginger actually turns it on. And when it turns on that process, called the migrating motor complex, it flushes out left behind food and bacteria that would normally cause bloating. So it's really great for preventing bloating as well as improving gut health. I personally like to have a ginger lemon tea every single night for this exact reason. The fifth is for if you really struggle with bad sleep, and that's a magnesium supplement. Most people are deficient in magnesium, or at least they're not getting enough magnesium, and magnesium is needed to help promote deep, high quality sleep. This is why I take a magnesium supplement every night before bed, and it's very noticeable on the nights that I don't take it because my sleep is just not as good. And magnesium is actually one of the electrolytes with today's sponsor, Element. Element is an amazing electrolyte company that was specifically created with intermittent fasting, low carb eating, and athletes in mind. They actually contain the sodium, magnesium, and potassium to help balance electrolyte levels, all without having any sugar. I've been using Element for about 3 years now. I absolutely love it. I used to just take salt to get my electrolytes in, but I was so inconsistent with it because it just doesn't taste good to take salty water. But Element makes it so easy to remember to actually get my electrolytes in because it tastes so good. My all-time favorite flavor is their grapefruit salt, but they also come in a lot of other delicious flavors too, like their citrus, orange, and raspberry. And right now, Element is offering my viewers a free sample pack with any order. That's 8 single-serve packets free with any Element order. It's a really great way to test out all 8 flavors, so you can get yours at drinkelement.com/autumn. This is only available through my link, so make sure to check out drinklmnt.com/autumn. The link is also in the description down below. Okay, the sixth is specifically for if you are plant-based or if you're vegetarian and you're having a hard time getting your iron in, and that's having properly soaked and cooked beans. Now, especially for vegans, but even vegetarians, getting enough high-quality iron is very difficult. Beans can be a really great source, but because of the amount of anti-nutrients in beans, it actually blocks the absorption of that iron iron, so you're not really getting the benefit of beans. This is where properly soaking and cooking beans helps to release those anti-nutrients and make it so that you're actually able to gain access to that iron. And it's actually a very easy process that can also save you money. So you just take 1 cup of dried beans, so it could be any type of beans. You cover it with at least 2 cups of water and add in 1 teaspoon of baking soda. You let that sit for about 8 hours or overnight, and then you drain that water and cook it with fresh water and some salt and any other additional seasonings you want the next day. That process alone can significantly increase the iron that you're getting out of those beans. Okay, the 7th is a great food for if you find that you're really hungry after breakfast, and that's eggs. Eggs are one of the most satiating foods that you could possibly eat. It's also one of the most nutrient dense foods that you could possibly eat. The combination of both protein and fat in eggs makes it so that you feel so full and satisfied that it can really help prevent hunger and snacking, make it so much easier to achieve a fat loss goal. And because the protein content, it's also amazing for a body recomposition goal. But you do want to make sure that you're aiming for about 3 to 4 eggs if you're actually having it as a protein source. That way you're actually getting enough protein to make you satisfied. Okay, the 8th is if you find that you're really struggling to hit your protein needs, and that's a whey protein isolate. Whey protein is one of the most studied supplements ever. It's also one of the easiest ways to add an extra 20 or so grams of protein, especially if you find that you're just consistently a little low. Because we know that getting enough protein is so important for a body recomposition goal, which is where you're losing fat while keeping muscle. It's also important for helping to prevent hunger and to make sure that you're not losing muscle and you're maintaining strength as you age. And whey protein powder is one of the most studied supplements to actually help with all of those goals. But a lot of people don't do well with regular whey protein concentrate. That's one that's most available, that a lot of companies will use because it is a lot cheaper, so they get a lot larger profit margins, but it also is significantly higher in lactose. And considering about 60% of the world is lactose intolerant, it makes sense why people get GI issues with a lot of different whey proteins. So in order to get the benefit of the whey protein without the nasty GI effects, I recommend using 100% whey protein isolate, which is the lowest lactose form. In fact, this is why we only use 100% whey protein isolate in our protein powder, because I wanted to make sure that we're optimizing not just for all of those other benefits, but also for gut health too. And we actually designed it to taste amazing in recipes like protein pancakes, protein waffles, and smoothies. So if you guys want to check out our amazing, delicious community love protein powder, I'll have it pop up right here somewhere, or you can find it on our website at autumnlnutrition.shop. Okay, this 9th food has a plethora of benefits. If you struggle with hunger, if you struggle with getting your protein, and if you struggle with iron, you really should be adding in ground beef. Specifically ground beef. Not only is ground beef, or just beef in general, very satiating and very high in iron, but the fact that it's ground actually makes it so much more digestible for people across any age. One thing that people don't realize is that as you age, especially when you get into like your 60s, your 70s, your 80s, your ability to break down and use protein becomes a lot more difficult. And a lot of people have dental health issues that make chewing tough meats more difficult as well. This is why ground beef is actually one of the best options, because it is so much easier to chew and digest and break down, and then actually gain access to all of those beneficial nutrients. Okay, number 10 is a supplement, and it's a vitamin D3 K2 supplement. About 35% of Americans are deficient in vitamin D. I was one of those people for a long time. I actually just retested my vitamin D after taking a vitamin D3 supplement and also having a lot more dairy products, and I'm finally at really good levels. But low levels of vitamin D have been linked to so many issues, ranging from bone health even to mental health issues and higher risk of infection. Of course, we can actually get all of our vitamin D from the sun, but that kind of depends on the time of year, and it depends on where you live. And just for some people, it's just not realistic with their modern lifestyles. This is where a vitamin D3 supplement is really helpful. However, just taking a vitamin D3 supplement can actually make your vitamin K2 deficiency worse. So you want to make sure that you're getting a combination of vitamin D3 and K2. Of course, with all supplements, always checking in with your doctor to make sure that there's no nutrient drug interactions. Okay, number 11 is for if you really have struggled with brain fog or memory issues, or if you're looking to improve your athletic performance, and that is creatine. This is one of the other most studied supplements ever. I started taking creatine after my first baby for this exact reason, for the memory and for the brain fog. I really struggled with that like mommy brain, where I felt like my mouth wasn't able to connect with my brain and words weren't forming. And creatine has been found to help with so many issues, ranging from memory to, of course, athletic performance, which is what it was originally used for, but then even improving your mental abilities under stress or lack of sleep, which if you're a mom, you know that that's often an issue. Okay, number 12 is if you just struggle with hitting your nutrients across the board, and that's organ meats. Organ meats, especially liver, are essentially a multivitamin. It's high in nutrients like vitamin B12, vitamin A, and copper. In fact, especially liver is so high in these nutrients, you really only need to be having it about 1 time per week to see all of those benefits. And there's even companies who will pre-grind different organ meats like liver and kidney and put it into ground beef so you can add it into things like chili or burgers and you don't even know it's there. Now, I did a whole 60-day creatine experiment and shared exactly what happened to me. So if you want to check out those results, you can find it with this video next. Also, if you're new to my channel and you love this science-backed information, make sure you subscribe right here. Come out new videos every Tuesday and Thursday. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in my next video.